Okay, so today it's time to do two firsts in one. What's up everybody, it's PJ the Great. I hope you're having a super beautiful day. And if you're new here, I do videos just like this as well as ADHD tips. So if that sounds like your jam, consider subscribing. And to all my return subscribers, what's up fam? Welcome back. Alright, so today I have another PC build. I have been itching to do another one and I tried to think of something to do that is a little bit different from what I normally do. This one is going to be like killing two stones with one bird because this is a first for me, two firsts for me. The first is I am going to do an Intel build. And the second first is I am going to do a Hackintosh. So I have all the parts that I have listed here and I'll list them in the description as well if you want to build this same Hackintosh. And I'm going to do a sleeper build again in that same case that I did my last sleeper build in because I ripped all the parts out of there and used it for my new HTPC. So I thought it'd be cool to do a sleeper Hackintosh because I haven't really seen anybody do that yet, so why not me? All right, so let's go over the parts and show you what I have selected. Okay, so what I consider the heart of the system, this is the processor. I have decided to go with the Core i3. This is the 9100F 9th gen Coffee Lake, and this is 4 cores, 4 threads. It has a boost, I believe, of 4.2 gigahertz, which is pretty decent. This is like the bottom of the barrel as far as the Core series from Intel, but I really don't need this thing to do anything super spectacular. I'm a PC guy now. The only reason why I'm building this is because A, I'm bored because of being stuck at home all the time, and B, I just want something that's going to be really good at Final Cut Pro 10 because I do have my 2010 Mac Pro. I don't even use it anymore. The only time I use it is for like complex video edits, and I'm more comfortable in Final Cut Pro 10, but the exporting times are slow on that. So that's the reason why I'm building this, and I think this will do the job just fine. 4 cores, 4 threads. I don't need anything more than that, and if I do in the future, I'll upgrade to an i5, but I don't foresee myself needing anything more than a Core i3. The motherboard I decided to go with is this little guy right here. This is the Gigabyte H370M DS3H. I did a little research because you have to make sure that your parts are compatible for a Hackintosh. This one is compatible, so that's the reason why I picked it up. It's typically running, I think, $120 at the time of shooting this video. I was lucky enough to go on Amazon.com and find an open box model for only $50, which is insane. So I jumped on this with the quickness. I think I'm going to be happy with this board and stuff. In regards to the RAM, ignore the box. In here is 16 gigabytes, 3000 megahertz of GAMX 10 by ADATA XPG. I had these in my baby blue before I upgraded to the alloy RAM. You guys heard me talk about that before. It's rated at 3000 megahertz, like I said, cast latency 16, but this Core i3 can only handle 2400 megahertz, so I'm gonna have to downclock this to 2400 megahertz in order to get it to work. Sad that I have to do that, but you know, I had this RAM already lying around the house. I'm not gonna buy new RAM, just use this, downclock it. It should be fine. Intel really doesn't care about the speed of your RAM anyway. The graphics card is this little guy right here. It's got some mileage on it as far as where I've been using it in my builds. This is my MSI Armor RX 570 8 gigabyte. This is an AMD card. You have to use AMD cards for Apple and for Hackintosh. This was in my HTPC. I yanked that out of there because I just recently upgraded to a GTX 1070 for that. Yeah, I know I said in that video I did that I wasn't going to upgrade the graphics card, but I figured why not upgrade it, then just use this one for the Hackintosh. This little guy right here, this is a Egu fan that I had lying around, 120 millimeter fan. I want to put it on the side of the case to get better airflow in there. So I had that lying around, so I figured I would use that. This right here is a Seasonic power supply, but it's not really a Seasonic. I upgraded to a Seasonic in baby blue. And I threw in my old, I'll show it to you here. If you can see that, this is my old Corsair 850 watt PSU. Super, super, super overkill for this build. The only reason why I'm using it is because, once again, I had it lying around the house, so why not use it? This build really only needs a 500 watt power supply. So I'll list a good 500 watt power supply that you could use if you're interested in doing this same build. It'll probably be that Thermaltake that I'm a really big fan of, so it'll probably be that. For storage, I am going with the Dyra 120 gigabyte. Actually, no, this is the 1 terabyte SSD. This is going to be used for the OS and apps. Plenty of storage. I do have a Samsung QVO 1 terabyte, but putting a Samsung inside of a Mac would be a waste, in my opinion, because you can't take advantage of the Samsung Magician software. So I'm just going to use this Dyra SSD. It's a good SSD. I mean, I used it in baby blue when I first put it together. Never done wrong by me. And my mom, she had a 120 gigabyte Dyra in hers, and they're super fast, super reliable. They don't make these anymore, so I'll list in the description down below something else that you can use of this same capacity. And I mentioned the old HP Pavilion A1740N chassis. This is going to be the case, so I can make it a sleeper Hackintosh. Okay, so that's all the parts. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get this assembled and then attempt to install macOS Catalina on here. I think I got a good handle on it. I followed the instructions of a tech YouTuber, believe his name is Technolli, and I'll leave it linked in the description down below if you want to learn how to do a Hackintosh yourself. I'm not going to be doing like a tutorial or instructions or anything like that because this is my first time doing it. So all right, so without further ado, let's put all these parts together and get it all assembled, and then I'll see you after the little montage and share with you what the experience was like and how it performs. I'm actually super, super excited about this because I want to see if I can pull it off. All right, let's go.
Hold up, legs go wild when I pull up. They all on me like they want some. Think I got what you need, well I have none. Hop off, you're a freak and I'm handsome. Slide up in the club like 2 chains. This snake is on top of the food chain. Stand out like a star, no new name. All these words in my DMs, no message back, I just see them. I get them hooked and I reel it down, throw them back, we complete it. I'm a snake on this plane, I'm speeding, my poison is rain. I'm happy down, I'm late to pay, we dripping in venom, so babe, I'm a VIP. Selection, never hugs or connections. I just constrict and reject them. I make my snake hole transactions, eject my papers and stack them. All these words in my DMs, no message back, I just see them. I get them hooked and I reel it down, throw them back, we complete it. I'm a snake on this lane, I'm speeding, my portion is rain. I'm happy that I'm with the pain, we dripping in venom, so babe. Make those transactions, eject my papers and stack them. All these words in my DMs, no message back, I just see them, I get them.
Man, Totally feels weird editing in Final Cut Pro 10 again. All right, so here we are 2 weeks later. And here's what went down with the building of the Hackintosh. So there it is, right back there, up and running, but everything was not cupcakes and rainbows. Oh man, the issues. The first issue I ran into was with the motherboard. Well, I thought it was the motherboard. Got everything put together, went to go and power it on. It kept just boot looping. On, off, nothing on the screen. So I figured it's the motherboard, right? But then I realized I had purchased a 9th gen Core i3 processor for 8th gen motherboard. Now this motherboard, it can support 9th gen, but you have to update the BIOS. And the only way you can update the BIOS is you have to have an 8th gen processor in there to do it. So I ordered an 8th gen Core i3 processor. Had to wait a week for that to come in. It came in, dumped it in there. I got my boot screen and went into the BIOS. So I decided to update the BIOS before I started to install Mac OS. Updated the BIOS, turned it off, turned it back on, boot looping again. Black screen, on, off. Naturally, I got pissed off and just turned it off and said, I'm done messing with this thing for the day. Came back the next day, powered it on, it comes on. So I go into the BIOS thinking that it was just a fluke, make all my adjustments that you have to make in the BIOS in order to create a Hackintosh, saved it, exited, turned it back on, boot loop, black screen, on, off. So I was like, should have known this in the beginning. There's something wrong with this damn motherboard. So I returned it for a refund, and this time I ordered a brand new one, which set me back an extra $50, but at least it was giving me peace of mind that it was gonna work. And sure enough, I got it, installed it, everything worked just fine. Went into the BIOS, made my adjustments, updated the BIOS, not necessarily in that order. Then I went to go and install Mac OS Catalina, and it said no operating system software to be found. Okay, so I had to go back and watch Technolli's video again to see what did I miss. And then I found out what I missed. I didn't format my USB stick as a GUID partition. So it didn't create a partition for the EFI, just a folder. And I thought that was good enough, but it wasn't. So I ended up having to erase the whole USB and create this USB flash all over again. Luckily, I was smart enough to take that EFI folder and save it on the desktop before I did that. So then that way, now that I have it formatted properly, now I have a EFI partition. I just took the EFI folder, copied everything over, easy peasy lemon squeezy, got Mac OS Catalina installed, and everything was working perfectly, one would think. So it looks like I followed the instructions properly, did everything the way that I was supposed to do it. Everything's working just fine. Internet's working, sound is working, iMessage is working, the App Store is working. Go and get Final Cut Pro 10, put it on the system, and it will not open. It just kept crashing and crashing and crashing. So I had to take to Google and figure out if anyone else was having these problems, and a bunch of other people were having the problems. And then I kind of figured it out from reading these forums that I had to go in and change it from the GPU being in the PCIe slot to integrated graphics. Now granted, this processor does not have integrated graphics. So I made that change, and lo and behold, it works. Final Cut Pro 10 works. But with a caveat, I lost my boot screen. I was a little upset about that because it was nice seeing the boot screen, but then I said, you know, I was used to it with my 2010 Mac Pro not having a boot screen, so that's all fine and dandy. But the downside to this is that now I can't even get into the BIOS. So if I wanted to go into the BIOS to make some further tweaking, I can't do it because now the motherboard thinks it has integrated graphics, in which it does not. But when I load into macOS Catalina, it registers just fine because my Hackintosh thinks it's in 19,1 iMac. So once I get into macOS, the screen's on, everything's working, as you can see right behind me. But turning it on, can't see anything. So hopefully I won't have to go into the BIOS anytime soon, because if I do, I'm gonna have to take the CMOS battery out, reset the BIOS, and pretty much start over as far as the BIOS settings are concerned. But everything's working like peachy keen. I love the way that this machine is working. It is like amazing what I'm getting out of it for the price. Now, like I said, everything can't be cupcakes and rainbows, so I'm going to share with you the pros and cons of this little sleeper Hackintosh. All right, so let's start off with the good news, the pros. Well, the pros is, outside of the little shortcomings that I had, the process was so easy. All you have to do is just be patient and follow the process of creating the boot media so that you can get macOS installed on your Hackintosh. It was easy peasy. So that's the one pro about it. Another pro is I have a up-to-date Mac machine and I didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for it. Granted, it's not going to win any awards in regards to performance, but in comparison to my 2010 Mac Pro, it seems to be just as zippy. And Final Cut Pro 10 is working really good. It's working just as good as it did on my 2010 Mac Pro. So that is a pro. And if you're a Mac OS fan, it's definitely a pro to build a Hackintosh, especially if you can't or you're not willing to shell out the mighty dollar to Apple in order to get yourself one of these machines. Now, if you don't want to deal with the hassles of a Hackintosh, then definitely buy an Apple machine, even if you buy a used one, because I've always bought used Apple computers. So definitely go that route if tinkering is not your thing. Another pro to building a Hackintosh is that it is upgrade ready. I mean, everything is upgrade ready. If and when I'm ready to upgrade anything in this machine, like the GPU, the CPU, power supply, RAM, I can do it quick, fast, and easy and not have to worry about if I'm gonna like mess something up or if something is soldered on to the motherboard. So that's a really good bonus too. That is a pro in my book, is that this is like a starter machine and I could go in and I can make edits and updates as I see fit in the future. All right, now for the cons. The cons is it could be a major PETA trying to put together a Hackintosh. As I saw, a majority of my problems was hardware and not getting the right processor for the motherboard and then getting a defective motherboard. But outside of that, it can be a process. Creating that boot drive that I had to get macOS Catalina on here was not an easy process. I mean, it was, but it was very time consuming, and it took a lot of reading and watching Technolli's video and rewinding and fast forwarding and rewinding just to make sure I got everything done. So just getting the OS on the machine itself took as long as it would to actually build the system. So that is definitely one of the cons in my book. Another con is future updates to Catalina. You're not going to be able to get them unless you're gonna want to reinstall the whole OS again. At least that's what I think. I'm kind of new to this Hackintosh thing, but you can't just leave automatic updates on and then expect every time a new update to Catalina comes, you can just download it like a regular Mac and nothing's gonna happen. You do stand a chance of bricking your machine by doing that. So with that being said, I'm actually gonna stay on this issue of Catalina and just ride it out until the new OS comes out in the fall, and then I'll switch over to the new OS. But even then, I'm not going to do it right away. I'm going to wait until it matures a little bit, and then I'll dump on the new OS. And I have to figure out if I'm going to have to actually start over from scratch, or if I can use Time Machine and bring over stuff once I put the new OS on there. So that is a con in my book. It's a lot of work. It is not a plug and play system. Even building a PC to an extent is plug and play after you get Windows 10 installed on it. This ain't plug and play. So if you're not willing to get your hands dirty and do some work, I would say don't build a Hackintosh. But if you like tinkering with computers, kind of like I do, this should be right up your alley. Another small con is, despite the fact that this is a more up-to-date system than my 2010 Mac Pro, I did notice that, or I have been noticing that it does lag here and there. Final Cut Pro 10 has been working fine as I've been messing around with it, but I noticed that in multitasking, it cannot handle multitasking like my 2010 Mac Pro, despite that machine being 10 years old. Granted, that machine has a 6-core, 12-thread Xeon processor in there and 64 gigabytes of RAM. So it just makes everything buttery smooth, and I immediately noticed the difference when I went back on my 2010 Mac Pro to pull all the stuff off to throw it on the Hackintosh. It's just a much smoother experience. I chalk that up to be the Core i3 in there. Maybe if I upgrade to a Core i5 in the future, or i7, then that will all go away. Upgrade to 32 gigabytes of RAM, then everything would be fine. But what is my future in regards to this sleeper Hackintosh? Will I be doing any upgrades? I don't foresee it. To be honest with you, I am back with the PC Master Race. I'm happy with Windows 10, and I just love their experience. I like the experience a lot better than Mac OS now for some reason. It's kind of weird. It's like I'm a total convert. Like I said, I only built this machine so I could use Final Cut Pro 10 on more complex projects. I'm going to use it to edit this video just to test it out. But yeah, I don't foresee myself upgrading it because I hardly ever turned on my Mac Pro after I built Baby Blues. So I kind of feel the same way about this Hackintosh. I'm hardly ever going to turn it on. All right, that's going to do it for this video, guys and gals. If you enjoyed the video, please do me a favor and give it a big old thumbs up. But if you hated it, you can give it a thumbs down. But no matter what you do, don't forget to click that subscribe button and click that bell right next to it so you'll be notified every time I upload new videos. Sorry I've taken a little hiatus again, but this Hackintosh project was just like annoying me. So I had to take a little break, and now I finally got it done. So now back to your regularly scheduled programming of tech videos and ADHD videos. So until I see you in the next video, continue to stay safe, continue to stay isolated, and Audi 5000G. Now I wonder what my next project is going to be. Maybe I'll tinker around with my old little Mac Mini.
Hold up, place go wild when I pull up. They all on me like they want some. Think I got what you need, well I have none. Hop off, you're a freak and I'm handsome. Slide up in the club like 2 chains. This snake is on top of the food chain.